All right, hello everyone. Welcome to one of my first videos, actually, about the 65 F100 that I have here. This video here I wanted to make to kind of give you a breakdown of the 3 on a tree shifter column. You can obviously see that I got the steering wheel out there, got the turn signal switch right here, and it's all apart, etc. The tube, the shifter bowl column, whatever you want to call that, is gone. This is actually the shaft. As I recall, on my buddy's Mustang, 65 Mustang, these are solid all the way down. These are not collapsible. I don't know if that's the case, but I would assume it is, since it's 65, just like my buddy's. But anyway, so what are we doing here? Well, I got the pickup, and I got the master cylinder in, got the brakes to working, kind of driving it around the lot there, over there at the Quick Lube place. Was able to stop and was like, okay, let's go get some gas, because I have no idea how much gas is in here. And started driving. I got to the first stoplight. I started off in first and went to shift up into second, and nothing. I ended up coasting, thank goodness, to an empty parking lot, and found out that the shifter, it wouldn't do nothing. It wouldn't shift gears or nothing. So I got underneath the hood, and I actually shifted it manually with the linkages down there. And I actually had some engine problems as far as it wasn't running very good, and my negative cable on the battery right now is not very good, and so I have a hard time getting it started with its own battery, even though the battery's fine as far as the power is good, etc. There's just some things, and I just basically ended up having it towed to the house, and here we are at the house. But we got to fix the column shifter tube, basically. And so I took this thing apart, and it was very simple. Just, a couple screwdrivers. And by the way, somebody's been in here before. And so the reason why I bring that up is because somebody actually already cut the wires, and they had electrical tape. They had spliced them together kind of cheaply, and they wrapped them in electrical tape, and it worked. But I'm going to say that when I go back together, it's not going to be like this. It's actually going to be a solder joint. That's how I plan to do it. But anyway, that's what they did. So, okay, so in order to get this thing all apart, in case you've never done this before, you actually have to take that thing right there. You got to cut those wires, because those wires, they feed right through here and go down here, and then they come back out of the tube and then over here to where they connect underneath here with the other wires, or at least, that's what happened there. And they're actually, oh, here we go. These are plugs, actually. And see, these plugs, especially that one, cannot fit right there. So that's why they cut the wires. Okay? So anyway, you got to get that out. And then you can see that column bowl, they call it a column shifter bowl or something, I guess. At least that's when I looked it up. And it slips over the top of this. And so as it's sitting right here, you can see that those wires come up, and you can't pull it off without scraping the crap out of those wires. So that's why I had to take that apart and pull that out of there, and then I could take that out. Now, I ended up, I think there's a way you can do this that you don't need to do it the way I did. You can actually take it apart here, but I actually had the shifter handle in, I had the tube, the column bowl, I had all of that, and I brought it out here as one big unit. It just slipped right off the top of this steering shaft, and it almost hit the back window here, and I got it out. So, this is actually a bearing surface right there, by the way. I'm going to clean that up and re-grease that. While I'm cleaning that up, I'll have the vacuum over here to suck everything to where nothing falls down inside there. If I had a light here and I would have pointed down in there, you can actually see the tang, or the slot where, the slot where the tang on the tube, which I'm about to show you, actually fits in there, okay? So just to kind of give you an idea of what this is all about, this is sitting in here. You can't pull it out. At least I can't anyway. And so there we have what we have here. Now let me go show you what's going on. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you in here and show you what parts I took out. So this is the shifter, column shifter tube right here. That's what I'm going to call it anyway. This is the tang and another tang on this collar that slips down there. This is actually what shifts your reverse and first and second and third. This little tang right here. And it's done by this sitting inside. Here's the old collar tube. It sits down inside here like so. And there's this right here is supposed to, now from the factory, this is spot welded or heat welded on here like so. And that's how it works. And then this right here slips into that groove right there. And then so when you turn this right here, it's actually turning this right here. Okay, so that's how you get your linkage down in the bottom there to actually go up or down. Okay, all right, so shifter tube. This is the little tang that's, again, supposed to be heat welded on there. That's actually a factory heat weld hole there, but it pulled it off. And this is not what it looks like. It actually is solid metal with this hole. This is the original hole up here. But I drilled these holes because I'm going to put this up here, and I'm going to plug weld is what I'm going to do. This is not going to happen again. And again, this had been done before. So the factory spot welds actually broke off. Somebody took this thing apart, again, because the wires are all cut. And somebody actually tried to weld this on there. And they did it with the, you can see that this hole right here is a little bit oblong. So that's the old hole. And they had it right here like this. And what they did was they welded it up here on the top. And they welded here on the back. They did not do what I'm doing, which is drilling holes here and plug welding. And what happened, I believe, because they barely got any kind of weld on the bottom. They got a really good weld here on the top, and they actually ground on it to make it nice and smooth. The problem is that you can see here, right here, see this like raised edge right here? So when that shifter brings that tube upwards, that weld was smashing into this right here and actually raising this up. And yeah, eventually it kind of wore a nice little groove in there and kind of smashed that metal, displaced that metal up there. But I think what happened was eventually it weakened that weld up there, and then it broke off right when I was trying to use it. Just my luck. But nonetheless, hey, I'm glad it happened now so I can get this fixed and be done with this. All right, so remember, this is the original in here with the original hole. You can see it's oblong. I went ahead and drilled these perfect holes here, especially this one back here, because I'm going to, this was how it was, right here, I'm going to actually flip it over. And now my shifter is going to fit into a nice, perfectly round hole. So it's going to be a new hole, because I was thinking about like welding all this up and trying to, you know, make it nice and round again. But then I thought, why do that when I can just drill a brand new hole over here that's perfectly round and use this in here as a good place to do a plug weld. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to line it up here, kind of clamp it down. I'm going to fill that, and I'm going to fill that, I'm going to fill that, and this thing is going to be welded on there probably better than factory at that point. Okay, so then again, you take this with this on there, you slide it up inside here, and then you can see that, you know, it kind of bent it up a little bit before, and I cleaned this whole thing up, by the way. This is greasy as heck, and there's grease everywhere, or at least that's what they did. But my point is that, yeah, it's kind of messy, and this needs to be perfectly round here, because this right here needs to slide inside here, and it needs to be able to, this tube right here needs to be able to slide up and down inside there, because that's how you change from the reverse, you know, and first gear, and then to the second and third gear. So this right here, this is a bushing down here, plastic bushing. This was on here. I don't know if they replaced it or not, or if that's factory. This is a spring on here that's pushing down this collar here. Okay. And I believe the reason for this is that you stick this down in there. This thing is a perfect length, and you stick this down in there. And I believe that when you take that shifter and you want second and third, would that be right? No, when you want reverse and first, you got to pull the handle back, and when you do that, that handle is inside that hole right there, which, by the way, it cannot work unless you have this. Okay? Let me show you. So I painted this. Speaking of paint, go down to Home Depot. At least that's where I found this. Bare Premium Tropics Gloss is about as close as you can get to that teal that they painted these trucks. At least in a spray can that I can find. And so anyway, a little secret there. But this right here, that knob right there, is what goes inside here like so. Right? See that? Now, you can put this tube inside this bowl, and you can stick this down inside there. This will not reach here. It will not reach here. If you don't have this, it's actually sitting in here just about like this, and it will literally miss that hole. Okay, so not only do you have to have this because it splines itself into the shift bowl here, but it also makes how you want to say, it raises up this hole right here higher to engage with this shifter handle and this ball. Okay, so there's again something else that you just learned, a little secret here. I'm gonna go put this back over here, let it dry a little bit longer. I'm trying to let that dry. I'm pretty sure I'll end up scratching it somehow, maybe, who knows. All right, so I'm gonna put this on here. Like I said, I'm gonna plug weld all that up. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna slide it inside here, and then I can take that shifter handle and I can drop it right down inside here. You will need this right here. This is a rubber bushing that slips over that handle, actually on the one end, and then goes inside there like that. Okay, and that's what takes up all the gap in there. So that's what makes it, nice and snug, so to speak. This one here, I don't know how old it is or anything, but it's not really cracked, so I'm just going to reuse it. It feels good when I stick it in there. And then, of course, you got to take the pin, and you got to drive the pin in there. So you've got this in right here, and you drive that into the shifter handle and all the way through to the other side. Now, this shifter bowl, as you can see, that hole is really oblong and wore out, and you can also see the back one is also oblong and wore out. So I went looking to see what this thing would cost, and I found online, eBay. I hate eBay, but that's the only place. I mean, I guess there was other places, but I don't know of any, and eBay was just the easiest for me. But I found a place called, on eBay, they got their own store. It's Brock Auto Parts. Go look them up, I guess. Now that I know their name, I might actually go straight to their website rather than eBay. But anyway, I found them, and they sold this. It was a unit made in Taiwan, according to the package. And it was $35, and it came with a brand new pin. Now, this was all black before, but I was test fitting everything, and I ended up kind of scratching it with my my pair of pliers because it's a very tight fit. And I ended up scratching it, so I ended up sanding it to kind of smooth it off, so that way when it goes into the new unit, there's no sharp edges that will actually scratch and gouge and cause this thing to waller out faster, basically. So there's that. Okay. So by the way, you might have seen this and you're wondering what this is. So you slip this. Remember that shaft? You slip this down over the top of that shaft, and all you got to do is just kind of point those holes right there with that tang that I'm gonna weld on there over to the what would be the passenger side, and then that should line everything up down there. And then your steering shaft will be sticking out of here. Then you take this and you slip that over the steering shaft, and that keeps that steering shaft from banging around, I guess. That keeps it, it's kind of a bushing, I guess, is what it is. This thing was just coated in grease, but I cleaned it up really good. Now, a lot of this stuff is probably going to be coated in grease again, but nonetheless, I can just tell you that the stuff that I was messing with was really nasty, really old stuff. But anyway, I plan to grease all this up here, and then again, I believe this is how it works. And I wish I knew how I could do this because I'm holding the camera. But so when you're wanting to be in reverse and first, you will take and you will pull the handle towards you, which in turn will push this tube down, and then this will actually raise up like this because the tube is now being pushed down, and that tang right here will slide from the second and third shifter down into the reverse and first shifter, see? And then you twist it, you know, let's see. If you wanted reversed, you would go this way, and if you wanted first, you go that way. And then when you come back to neutral, now you're lined up between the the slot for the reverse and first and the second and third. And then if you let go of the handle, this spring is designed to naturally, be pushing down on the bottom there, which would in turn actually push the tube back up. And it would actually allow it to now line up with the, again, second and third shifter slot. So that's how that works. When you pull back on the handle, the tube drops down and slides into, obviously when you're in a neutral position, and it slides into the reverse and first. When you kind of let go, that spring is supposed to push down, it's compressed, and it's supposed to push down against where it's seated here, which means it will in turn push the tube back upwards and allow it to slot into the second and third shifter link. And that's how a column shifter 3 on a tree for a Ford 1965, and I'm pretty sure it's very similar for all the rest of them, works. I found this tube new in the package on eBay. It was like $375. And when I saw that, I was like, well, I can buy it. But I don't really trust the fact that the factory weld is going to hold up. So, like I said, I'm going to actually, because I drilled a brand new hole here. So as long as I drilled a brand new hole, and it's nice and round again, and I'm going to really plug weld this, I think I'm going to be better than the factory, honestly. And this isn't beat up too bad. I mean, you can see it's got some, but it is allowed to slide up and down inside the collar a little bit. Now, that's the other thing I can show you, I guess, is I told you I bought a collar, and the collar is right over here. So right now what I'm doing is I'm putting self-etching primer on it. I actually painted it last night, and I did not follow the instructions. I didn't let the primer dry long enough, and I put the that good Behr paint on there or whatever, and it started bubbling pretty bad. And then I thought, oh crap, so I let it dry, and it was still tacky. And then I ended up sanding it smooth, and then I sprayed some primer over the top of that, and then it really started, like, the primer started cracking, kind of. It's weird. I don't know what they call that when it happened, but it started just cracking open, and you could see the blue teal sticking up through the primer, and it was just ugly. So I took it over to the bead blaster, and I blasted it all over again, and I'm starting fresh. So you can see here I masted it up pretty good to kind of keep it clean from getting too much paint everywhere. And I started, now since I've actually blasted this thing, it is bare metal, and I'm using self-etching paint in an aerosol, and it says to let it dry for 3 to 4 hours. Now I did kind of heat it up with a heat gun just to make it kind of warm, so hopefully that'll help assist with the drying process. But nonetheless, got 3 light coats. I'm following the instructions exactly this time. I'm going to do what I'm told. And then as soon as after about 3 hours, I'll go ahead and start spraying the teal on there. And then that the can says that you should let this dry 24 hours before you start trying to use it. And I don't like the idea of that, but nonetheless, that's what I'm going to do, because I want it to dry really nice and solid, so it doesn't scratch real easy and mark up or whatever. But oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to show you. You can see here that the hole is nice and perfect. Same with this one. So it's not, and you can see that it looks good down inside there compared to the other one. No raised surfaces, nothing, you know, scratched up or anything. So it is rebuilt. And by the way, that one is a little bit lighter in weight. I imagine they're, you know, trying to save a little money by using less material in the casting. It, again, the package did say Taiwan, but it seems to be very quality. Like when I slide this tube into that one or the new one, it doesn't, there's no difference. I mean, it does the same both ways. So I'm very impressed with the quality of it. I just would like to paint it up and make it look nice. You can see at one time they had a radiator band clamp over this to keep it from coming out. I intend to maybe put a little bit of red thread locker or a hydraulic lock right there as I'm driving this thing in when I go to set it in for good. And maybe that'll keep that. Although, like I said, I did try a fit and it's really tight. So I don't know if I have to, but I probably will anyway. So there you go. That is what a 3 on the tree for a 1965 F100, how it operates and how it functions, etc. I'm really hoping this video will be helpful for you if you're looking to understand how it works, or you need to fix it yourself or whatever. I'm just telling you what you're going to run into as far as this. This is, I think it's a common problem. I went out on the forums and people were talking about, you know, yeah, you need a new column shifter tube. And again, I went and looked and it was $370. I think there was some shipping with that too. And I just, you know, I've got a nice big old welder over there. I don't see any reason why I can't fix this. Plus, I've got a lot of machine shop and fabricating experience. So, again, all I did is just flipped it around, made a nice round hole there. Just going to line it up there, plug weld the crap out of it. And then I'll be able to grease it all back up, drop it back in, slip that ship bowl collar over the top of it, have this bushing in place, and stick the shifter down inside of it with this bushing here, drop the pin into it, and then I should be able to assemble the rest of it. I can show that real quick one more time. Should be able to assemble the rest of it, which then would basically be running the wires down through here, back up to the top of the tube, just past this thing right here, hook up those wires there, screw that down, and of course, you know, when I take this, I'm going to take a screwdriver and vacuum and kind of clean up all that grease, and then put new grease there, clean it up really good. There's a little bit of grease there. You can see there's a spring in there. I don't know much about it as far as like it doesn't seem to want to come out, but there it is. And then the turn signal switch, looks like they put a, I don't know if that's factory or not, but I know that it's not working as far as the return, because on the back of the steering wheel here you can see that there's actually no engagement. There's no tang on here. I don't know if you have to put a screw here somewhere. Maybe they didn't do that, but obviously it's an aftermarket steering wheel. Maybe they didn't know what they're doing, but nonetheless, I mean, you know, and it's a small one, by the way. I'm just going to leave it as it is for right now, but this thing has manual steering, by the way, and this thing is a mofo to turn with that small steering wheel. It takes some arm strength, but I'm going to use it for now. So as soon as I get this whole 3 on the tree back in, then I can work on the ground cable, so that way the battery can start this thing. Then I'm going to take the carburetor off, and I'm going to open it up and dump it out and see how, because the fuel, this thing's been sitting. They told me it's been kind of just moving around very rarely and sitting for over 26 years. That's how old this paint job is, I guess, the second paint job. And my point is usually I always know that these fuel tanks get rusty, and so I want to clean out the carburetor, and if there is any rust and stuff in there, I'm going to go out and find the biggest inline filter that I can find for capacity and stick it in there, because I know that two barrel little screw-in filter on the front. I've had experience with that before with my Mustang, and it's a pain in the butt. It definitely does not. You will plug it up faster than I'm not even kidding. I had put a brand new filter on it when my Mustang was giving me trouble back in the day, because it was sitting for like 15 years when I bought this thing, and I started driving it, and within a week I had all kinds of rust problems, and I had to change that filter, and I did, and I felt like, you know, at the time I was a kid, and I was like, oh, I fixed it, yay, and it didn't even take another 15 minutes, and that thing was plugged up again. So, but today, being a little bit older and a little bit wiser, I realized you could just take and get a big inline filter, or even an agricultural type screw-on fuel filter, you know, that they use for those farm tanks and whatnot. I mean, I don't know much about the safetiness of that really per se. I mean, you're going to have this big old filter, right? This big canister spin-on filter. I mean, it's metal, so I guess it's safe in that regard. But what I'm saying is you want to make sure, you know, it doesn't fall off and, you know, hit the ground, or, you know, you want to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to. But what I'm saying is that's the best way. That's what I do on an old car like that I know that is going to likely be a rusty tank, and it's going to have rust coming up through there. So instead of, you know, spending all my time, you know, replacing fuel lines and replacing fuel tanks and, you know, little filters, etc., I get this big filter, and I let the filter hold the capacity of all that rust and stuff that's going to come up there, and then just change it like once a month or something until I start to see that nothing else is coming, and then, you know, there you go. I mean, that's how I do it anyway. It's a cheating way, and it's not probably the right way, but it works. It works real good, as a matter of fact. And you never have to really worry about rust or anything again, because you got this huge, nice capacity filter to handle all that. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do, and then probably get Pertronics and get the points system gone out of that sucker and get it started, tune it, and then I'm going to drive it. And about the only other thing I want to do is eventually get some wheels and tires, because those tires obviously was, you can see it was on there when it was painted 26 years ago, so those are pretty old tires. So I would like to, by the way, I took those hubcaps off, and it's the steel wheels, and they're painted, I don't know, like a cream color, not the white, but a cream color. So I don't know, I want to get some nice wheels and nice tires on there. That's what I plan to do. Alright guys, well, thanks a lot for coming along and checking into the 3 on the tree, so you know how that works, and hopefully it will help you at some point when you need to fix yours, or you need to just understand how it works. And yeah, like, subscribe, rumble, and we'll see you next time.